There are things I don't say out loud. It's not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I know how people react. The truth makes them uncomfortable. The honesty makes them look away. So I smile when I'm breaking. I say I'm fine when I'm anything but, because sometimes pretending feels safer than explaining. Sometimes the mask is the only thing holding you together. Sometimes you're so tired of being the person who's always struggling that you'd rather disappear into silence than speak one more word about pain. But today I'm saying them out loud, every single one of them. Welcome back to Painfully Real, where we tell the truth about living in a body that won't stop screaming. I'm Josh, and today's episode is about the words that never leave our mouths, the hidden thoughts, the secret fears, the daily negotiations we make with our pain that nobody ever sees. You see, strength isn't just about what we endure, it's about what we don't say while we're enduring it. The comments that we swallow, the fears we hide in the shower, the screams we muffle into the pillow at 3 a.m. when the world is asleep and we're alone with sensations that have no language. That silence can be heavy. It builds pressure. It accumulates like water behind a dam, and eventually it needs somewhere to go. Today's episode is about release, about giving a voice to the quiet parts of chronic pain, the ones we usually keep locked away because we think no one will understand, or worse, because we're afraid they will understand and it still won't change anything. So, if you've ever felt like you're carrying secrets that weigh more than the pain itself, this episode's for you. Let's start with the lie we tell the most, the I'm fine. Two words that do a lot of heavy lifting. They mean, I don't have the energy to explain. They mean, you won't get it anyways. They mean, if I tell you the truth, it might make you uncomfortable, and I just don't have the strength to comfort you while I'm falling apart. They mean, I've learned that honesty costs me more than it costs you. I've said I'm fine while my nerves were on fire. I've said it while I was quietly mourning the person I used to be. I've said it because I didn't want pity. I just wanted to feel normal for at least 5 minutes. I've said it in doctor's offices when the pain scale didn't have enough numbers. I've said it to loved ones who are looking at me with that mixture of concern and exhaustion that tells you they care, but they're also tired. When you can see that your pain is becoming a burden, not just to you, but to everyone around you, you say, I'm fine. It's because it's easier than watching someone you love struggle to help you when there's nothing they can do anyways. Here's the thing though, is I'm fine becomes a prison when it's all you ever say. It keeps people from seeing your truth, but it also keeps you from being seen. And when you're never truly seen, you start to disappear, even from yourself. You lose track of what's real and what's performance. You forget what it feels like to be honest about your own experience. Sometimes strength isn't pretending to be fine, it's whispering. Actually, today's really hard. It's saying, I'm struggling and I don't need to fix it. I just need you to know. Because the opposite of fine isn't I'm falling apart. The opposite of fine is I'm human. And being human means having days where you're not okay, and that's perfectly okay. We don't talk about fear enough, not the big dramatic kind that makes for good movies. The quiet fear that shows up in the middle of the night when you're alone with your thoughts and the pain won't let you sleep. For me, it sounds like this. What if it gets worse? What if this is as good as it gets? What if I'm always this way? What if the people I love get tired of waiting for me to get better? What if I wake up tomorrow and I can't walk? What if the next flare is the one that breaks me? What if I'm becoming someone people talk to out of obligation, not because they want to? There's this unspoken terror that chronic pain brings, you know, not just of pain, but of loss. Loss of identity. Who are you when your body won't do the things that used to define you? Loss of connection. How do you maintain relationships when you're constantly canceling plans? Loss of control. What happens when you realize your body isn't listening to you? You lost a future when every plan comes with an asterisk that says, if I'm able to. And most days you can't talk about that fear because people rush to fix it. They say, don't think like that, or you have to stay positive. They send you articles about miracle cures and people who overcame their illness through willpower and green smoothies. And they mean well, they really do. But what they don't understand is that toxic positivity isn't support, it's silencing. It's telling someone their honest emotions are wrong. It's asking them to perform optimism for your comfort. But here's the truth: acknowledging fear isn't negativity, it's honesty. And honesty is how we keep and find the courage to keep going. You don't fight fear by ignoring it. You fight it by dragging it into the light and saying, you know what? I see you, and you don't get to drive today. You fight it by naming it, speaking it, sharing it with people who won't try to talk you out of feeling what you feel, because fear loses power when it's not a secret anymore. When you say it out loud, it becomes just another thing you're carrying. And you've already proven you can carry impossible things. People think chronic pain is just about pain. They picture someone wincing, maybe limping, and they think that's the whole story. They don't see the management, the constant background labor it takes just to function, the calculations. How long can I sit before it flares? If I go to that event, what will I have to cancel tomorrow? Do I have my meds, compression gear, heating pads, backup meds, ice packs, comfortable shoes, an exit plan? Can I park close enough? Are there stairs? Will there be somewhere I can sit? And can I leave early without causing a scene? See, it's not just physical pain, it's decision fatigue. It's mental load that never stops. It's living in a body that demands a full time job worth of management while the world expects you to work an actual full time job, socialize, maintain relationships, pay bills, and smile through it all. Every shower is a strategic operation. Every meal requires calculating energy expenditure. Every social interaction is weighed against tomorrow's pain. You become a cost benefit analysis of your own life, constantly running calculations that no one else even knows exist. And the worst part, because nobody sees the labor, they assume that it doesn't exist. They see you at the event and think you're doing great. They don't see the 3 days of rest it took to get there or the week of recovery that comes after. They see you smiling and assume the pain isn't bad. They don't see the mental fortitude it takes to smile through sensations that would make most people scream. They see you looking fine and wonder if maybe you're exaggerating. They don't see the medication, the therapy, the accommodations, the sheer force of will it takes just to appear normal. But here's what I want you to remember: every day you manage your pain, you're doing the invisible work of survival. You're performing miracles that no one applauds. You're showing up for a life that constantly asks more of you than it asks of others. You see, you might not get paid for it. You might not get thanked. You might not even get believed. But it's real work and it's proof of strength, even when no one else recognizes it. You're doing enough. You are enough. Even on the days when enough is just getting through. There's a type of grief that doesn't get talked about much because the person you're grieving is yourself. You're mourning someone who's still alive, the version of you that existed before, the you who could spontaneously make plans, the you who didn't have to think about pain before thinking about anything else, the you who had a different future mapped out. And that grief is complicated because you're supposed to be grateful you're still here. You're still fighting, still alive. But gratitude and grief can coexist. You can be thankful for what you have while mourning what you've lost. When I started this podcast, I made myself a promise that I wouldn't just talk about the parts of CRPS that were palatable, that I wouldn't curate my pain to make it easier for others to digest. So here it is, the quiet part out loud. Some days I hate this body, not in a passive way, in an active, angry, grief stricken way. I hate that it betrayed me. I hate that it won't do what I asked. I hate that it hurts when there's no reason, no injury, there's no fix. Some days I grieve the person I used to be so hard it feels like a second death. I see old photos and I don't recognize that person anymore. I hear stories about things I did and they feel like someone else's memories. Some days I want to give up, not in a dramatic way, just in a tired, I don't know how much more of this I can take way. And that doesn't make me weak. It makes me human. It makes me someone who's been fighting a battle that has no end date, no victory condition, no movement where someone declares you've won. Pain isolates you. It convinces you that no one would understand the raw, unfiltered truth. It tells you that if people knew how dark your thoughts get, they'd leave. It whispers that you're too much, you're too negative, you're too broken. But here's the thing, every time I share something that I thought was too dark, someone reaches out and says, "That's exactly how I feel." Every time I speak the unspeakable, someone else excels in relief because they're not alone anymore. That's why I talk. That's why we talk. Because the only way to take the power back from pain is to stop letting it silence us. So let me say some things that maybe you need to hear today. Your pain is real, even when tests come back normal. Your experience is valid, even when others don't understand it. Your limitations are not failures, they're your body's way of communicating its needs. You are not a burden. You are a person navigating an impossibly difficult situation. You are allowed to have bad days without it meaning you've given up. You are allowed to grieve without it meaning you're ungrateful. You are allowed to be angry without it meaning you're bitter. You're allowed to ask for help without it meaning that you're weak. You're allowed to rest without justifying it. And you're allowed to say no without explaining why. You can take up space with your needs. You are allowed to be imperfect in your coping. You're allowed to fall apart and put yourself back together as many times as it takes. And here's maybe the most important one. You are allowed to speak your truth, even if it makes people uncomfortable. Your honesty is not a weapon, it's a lifeline for you and for everyone else who's been drowning in silence. Here's a bonus. That's why I created the Painfully Real Relief Fund. Because speaking up is powerful, but sometimes people need tangible help. Sometimes the barrier between struggling and surviving is a piece of equipment insurance won't cover. Sometimes it's adaptive tools that cost more than a month's rent. Sometimes it's just the ability to buy groceries without having to choose between food and medication, whether it's paying for mobility aids, adaptive equipment, therapy sessions, or just a small piece of normal life again. This fund is about more than charity. It's about community. It's about people who understand pain, taking care of each other in the ways we wish the world would take care of us. If you've ever listened to this podcast and thought, I wish I could help someone going through this is how you can help. Every shirt you buy from my Painfully Real clothing line supports that fund. Every donation, every share, it all goes back into helping real people find relief in real ways because healing might be personal, but survival is collective. We keep each other afloat. We witness each other's pain. We validate each other's experiences. We create the support systems that society hasn't built for us. And that is powerful. If this episode resonated with you, I hope you take one thing from it. You don't have to keep everything bottled up to be strong. Say the quiet things. Tell your truth, even if your voice shakes, even if it comes out messy, even if you cry while you say it, even if people don't understand. You might be surprised by how many people whisper back, me too. And in those moments, in that recognition, that connection, you'll remember that you were never alone as your pain told you that you were. The silence ends when we decide to speak. And every voice that joins the conversation makes it easier for the next person to find their words. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community. I would love to hear and share your stories. Reach out to me at the Painfully Real Podcast at gmail.com. And, let's keep these stories alive. And thank you for showing up, even on the days when showing up is the hardest thing you'll do. I'm Josh, and this has been Painfully Real. Until next time, keep fighting for your peace. Keep telling your truth. And remember, being real is strong.